Tom had never planned to land on this strange planet. His cargo ship had been passing through an unknown region of space when a storm of sharp meteors struck. The control systems failed, alarms screamed, and before he could do much, the ship spun out of control and plunged toward the planet below. When he woke up hours later, the ship was lying sideways in a dense forest. Sparks flickered from broken wires. The air smelled different, like fresh rain mixed with metal. Tom's head hurt, and his left arm had a deep bruise. But he was alive. He pushed open a jammed hatch and stepped out. The ground was covered in soft blue moss that glowed faintly. Strange trees with silver leaves stretched high into the misty sky. He had no idea where he was, but one thing was clear. He needed water, food, and a way to fix his communicator. Tom gathered his emergency bag and started exploring. The forest was silent except for the sound of distant streams and his own footsteps. He kept glancing at the broken sky above, hoping to see another ship passing by, but there was nothing. After an hour of walking, he heard something unexpected, a sound, soft and shaky, like crying. Tom froze. At first, he thought it was his mind, playing tricks on him. But then it came again, a gentle sob carried by the wind. He followed the sound carefully, pushing aside glowing plants and ducking under wide branches. Finally, near a cluster of tall blue flowers, he saw her, a young, beautiful alien woman sat on a fallen log, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Her skin had a smooth teal shade, and her dark hair shimmered faintly like starlight. She had a soft, natural beauty, even though her face was wet with tears. She was barefoot, dressed in a simple woven cloth, and her shoulders shook as she cried. Quietly, Tom didn't want to scare her. He stopped a few steps away and spoke softly. "Hey, are you okay?" The woman gasped and looked up quickly. Her large, shining eyes locked on him with shock and fear. She jumped to her feet, backing away slightly. Tom slowly raised his hands, showing he meant no harm. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." She stared at him for a long moment, breathing fast. Then, suddenly, as if something inside her broke, she ran to him. Before Tom could react, she wrapped her arms around him tightly, pressing her face into his chest. He felt her trembling as sobs escaped her. Tom was stunned. He had met aliens before during trade routes, but never like this. Never someone so afraid and desperate for comfort. "It's okay," he whispered gently, patting her back. "You're safe." The woman clung to him as if letting go would mean losing everything. Tom could feel her heartbeat racing. She spoke softly, words he couldn't understand. The language was unknown to him. I don't understand," he said kindly. She pulled back slightly, looking at him with hopeful eyes, and repeated something slowly. Her voice was melodic, but the meaning was lost. Tom remembered his translator device. He reached into his bag, took out the small metal disc, and tapped it. It blinked with a soft green light. "Try again," Tom said. The woman hesitated, then spoke. The translator hummed and projected a soft voice. "Please, don't leave me." Tom felt a sharp pull in his chest. This wasn't just a random meeting. Something had happened to her. "I won't leave," he said gently. "I promise." Hearing that, she hugged him again, sobbing harder now. Tom slowly guided her to sit back on the fallen log. He handed her a bottle of water from his bag. She looked at it curiously, then sipped, her hands still shaking. "My name is Tom," he said slowly, pointing to himself. She nodded slightly and whispered, "Lyra." "Lyra," Tom repeated, giving a small smile. She blinked, her tears glistening in the faint forest light. For a moment, she looked almost calm, though her hands still clutched his sleeve as if afraid he would disappear. Tom glanced around. The forest seemed quiet. but something about it felt heavy, like the silence was hiding danger. He knew staying exposed wasn't safe. "Lyra," he said softly, pointing toward the broken ship in the distance. "We should go there. It's safer." She shook her head quickly, her eyes wide with fear. "No. No. Bad." Tom frowned. Whatever had made her this terrified must still be out there. "Okay," he said calmly, not wanting to push her. "We stay here for now." He pulled out a ration pack, tore it open, and handed half to her. She sniffed it and then took a small bite. For a second, she almost smiled. As the alien sun began to set, the forest glowed brighter. Soft blue lights pulsed through the moss and flowers. Tom sat beside Lyra, trying to understand her story, but the translator struggled with her words. That night, they stayed close to a glowing rock for warmth. Tom kept watch while Lyra rested, though she woke, often clutching his arm each time. Near dawn, she finally whispered through the translator, Alone, many moons, family gone." Her voice cracked, and tears rolled down her cheeks again. Tom didn't know what had happened to her, but he understood the pain of losing family. Slowly, he put his arm around her. She leaned into him, closing her eyes. For the first time since his crash, Tom didn't feel like a lost traveler. Sitting there with Lyra, he felt something different, like he had a purpose. As the strange sun rose higher, one thought stayed with him. Whatever made her cry like this wasn't over yet, and somehow he had just stepped into a story far bigger than himself. The second morning on the alien world began with soft light filtering through silver leaves. The forest hummed with distant sounds of unknown creatures, and the glowing moss slowly dimmed as the sun rose higher. Tom stretched his sore arms and glanced at Lyra. She was sitting quietly on the fallen log, her teal skin reflecting faint morning light. She wasn't crying now, but her eyes still looked heavy, like someone carrying far too many memories. Tom walked over and offered her a piece of dried fruit from his ration pack. She accepted it with a small nod, nibbling carefully. It seemed like she hadn't eaten well for a long time. "Lyra," Tom said slowly, pointing to his ship's distant wreckage. "We need to go there. I can fix it. Then, maybe we can leave this place." She looked toward the crash site, her face tense. "Bad," she whispered through the translator. "Sky beasts, danger." Tom frowned. "Sky beasts?" Lyra pointed to the broken treetops where his ship had fallen. She made a clawing motion with her hands and a low growl. The translator struggled, but finally said, "Hunters, big wings." Tom sighed. Of course there were predators, but he couldn't survive without repairing his communicator or finding more supplies. "We'll be careful," Tom said gently. "Together." Lyra hesitated. Her gaze met his, and for the first time, she didn't immediately look away. Slowly, she nodded. The journey to the crash site was slow. Lyra moved lightly, stepping carefully to avoid making noise. Tom followed her lead, realizing she knew the forest well. She pointed out strange, glowing fungi and tall plants with sharp needles that could pierce boots. Without her guidance, Tom would have been lost. At one point, they heard a screech overhead. Tom ducked under a tree as a massive shadow passed above. Something, with long wings and bright red eyes gliding silently. Lyra's face turned pale, and she pulled Tom deeper into the mossy undergrowth. They stayed there for several minutes until the shadow vanished. When it was safe, Tom whispered, "That's the hunter?" Lyra nodded quickly. "Many. Hungry." Tom felt a chill run down his spine, but kept moving forward. Finally, they reached the crash site. The ship lay cracked open like a giant metal egg. Smoke had faded overnight, but the smell of burning circuits lingered. Tom approached carefully, scanning for damage. The main engine was wrecked, but the emergency beacon might still work. He just needed power. While Tom examined the panels, Lyra wandered inside the ship's tilted interior. She touched a photograph taped to the wall, a small image of Tom's old crew smiling together. Through the translator, she asked softly, "Family?" Tom glanced over his shoulder. "Friends," he said with a faint smile. "My team. They're far away now." Lyra lowered the photo, understanding that same loneliness she carried. Hours passed as Tom tried to reconnect wires and repair the beacon. Lyra sat near the entrance, keeping watch for hunters. Occasionally, she would point out parts of the ship Tom had missed or hand him tools. At one point, Tom's hands slipped and a sharp edge cut his palm. He winced, trying to wrap it quickly, but Lyra moved closer. "Let me," she whispered. From a small pouch, she pulled out soft leaves that glowed faintly. She pressed them gently against his cut, and within moments, the bleeding slowed. Tom stared in surprise. "That's amazing." Lyra gave a tiny smile. "Forest gift." For the first time, they shared a brief laugh together, quiet and uncertain, but warm. By late afternoon, Tom managed to reroute enough power to send out a weak signal. It wasn't strong enough to reach human colonies, but maybe a nearby ship could pick it up. As they prepared to leave the crash site, a sudden screech echoed above. Lyra froze, eyes wide. "Hunter!" she hissed. Tom looked up to see the massive, winged creature circling low, its red eyes fixed on them. Its body shimmered with metallic scales, and long talons glinted in the sunlight. Without thinking, Tom grabbed Lyra's hand. "Run!" They sprinted into the forest as the hunter swooped down. The wind from its wings slammed into them like a wave. Branches snapped overhead as it clawed at the ground behind them. Lyra led Tom through a narrow gap between two glowing boulders. The hunter tried to follow but got stuck momentarily, screeching in frustration. They didn't stop running until they reached a cave hidden beneath heavy vines. Inside, both of them collapsed, panting hard. Tom's heart raced as he listened to the hunter's screeches fading outside. "That," he said breathlessly, "was way too close." Lyra trembled but didn't cry. Instead, she looked at Tom with quiet relief. "You didn't leave," she said softly. Tom met her gaze. "I told you. I won't leave you." For a long moment, they sat in silence. Lyra's hand was still in his, and though she seemed hesitant, she didn't pull away. As night fell again, they made a small, safe fire in the cave. Lyra drew symbols on the cave wall using a glowing mineral. She pointed to herself, then to a group of figures, and finally crossed them out. Tom understood. "Your family?" She nodded slowly, tears glistening in her eyes. "Gone. Hunters. Long ago." Tom felt a heaviness in his chest. This planet hadn't just trapped him, it had taken everything from her. But looking at her now, sitting close, to the firelight, something felt different. Despite everything, despite fear and loss, she hadn't given up. She had survived alone for so long. Tom gently said, "We'll find a way out, together." Lyra glanced at him, surprised by the certainty in his voice. Slowly, she gave a small, shy nod. Outside, the forest remained dangerous and unknown, but inside that cave, under the faint glow of alien firelight, something began to change. For the first time since they had met, Lyra wasn't just surviving, she had someone beside her. And for Tom, this wasn't just about repairing a ship anymore. It was about keeping a promise and helping someone who thought she'd been invisible forever. The next morning, sunlight crept into the cave, casting long shadows on the walls where Lyra's glowing drawings still shimmered faintly. Tom awoke to the sound of soft humming. He opened his eyes and saw Lyra kneeling near the cave entrance, arranging small stones into patterns. She looked peaceful but alert, glancing outside every few moments to make sure no hunters were near. When she noticed Tom stirring, she offered a gentle smile, the first genuine one he had seen on her face. "Morning," Tom said softly. Through the translator, Lyra replied, "Safe, for now." Tom sat up, stretching his sore muscles. He thought about yesterday, the crash site, the terrifying hunter, the near escape. Survival here wasn't going to be easy. His ship's beacon was sending a weak signal, but help could take days or even weeks to arrive. Until then, he and Lyra had to rely on each other. After a quick meal of dried fruit and strange glowing nuts Lyra found nearby, Tom decided to explore more of the area around the cave. He needed to understand the forest better, find safe paths, and maybe gather materials to improve the beacon. Lyra insisted on coming with him. At first, Tom hesitated. "It might be dangerous," he said. Lyra placed her hand on her chest and shook her head. "No forest. Protect." Tom couldn't argue. She clearly knew this place far better than he did. They moved quietly through the woods, avoiding open spaces where hunters might see them. Lyra taught Tom how to step lightly on the glowing moss without making noise, and how to spot warning signs, scratches on tree trunks or feather-like scales left behind by predators. Despite the danger, Tom found himself amazed by the planet's beauty. The trees shimmered like silver glass, and tiny winged creatures floated in the air, glowing softly like lanterns. Streams of clear blue water wound between mossy rocks, and strange flowers opened when touched by sunlight. "This place," Tom whispered. "It's dangerous, but it's also incredible." Lyra tilted her head, curious. "Incredible?" Tom smiled. "Beautiful. Special." Lyra lowered her gaze for a moment, as if the word special felt foreign to her. Around midday, they reached a rocky cliff overlooking a wide valley. From here, Tom could see the twisted trail of smoke rising from his wrecked ship. He sighed. "It's too far," he said, thinking of the tools he still needed. Lyra pointed toward a distant ridge. "Old metal? Maybe help," the translator said. Tom raised an eyebrow. "Old metal?" Lyra nodded. "Crash. Long ago, not yours. My people? Before." Tom's curiosity sparked. "Another crash site?" "Yes," Lyra replied, her voice soft. "Family tried to leave. Ship fell." Tom's heart sank. That must have been when she lost everyone. He looked at her gently. "If it's too hard for you, we don't have to go." But Lyra shook her head firmly. "Help you. Help us both." The path to the ridge was difficult. They climbed steep rocks and crossed a narrow log bridge over a glowing river. At one point, Tom slipped and nearly fell, but Lyra caught his hand with surprising strength. She pulled him back with a determined look. "Thanks," Tom said, breathing hard. Lyra only gave a small nod, but he could see a hint of pride in her eyes. By late afternoon, they reached the second crash site. Rusted metal pieces lay scattered across the ground, half buried in moss. The remains of an old alien ship were barely recognizable, its frame twisted and broken. Lyra walked among the wreckage slowly, touching fragments of metal as if remembering each moment. "This, my home," she whispered. Tom stayed quiet, giving her space. She knelt near a small, cracked panel with symbols scratched into it. The translator translated softly, "Mother's words, before the fall." Tom placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry." For a long while, they said nothing. The wind rustled silver leaves, carrying the faint scent of old metal and earth. Finally, Lyra stood and looked at him with determination. We take what we need. Leave, not be hunted forever. Tom nodded. Let's do it. Together they scavenged parts from the wreckage. Tom found power cells that could boost his beacon, as well as wiring and tools to fix his communicator. Lyra discovered an old survival pack buried under metal sheets. It contained preserved food and a strange glowing crystal that emitted warmth. While working, they heard distant screeches. Hunters were nearby. Lyra quickly led Tom to a hidden cave beneath the wreckage. Inside, glowing plants lined the walls, casting soft blue light. The cave was small but safe. As they waited for the danger to pass, Tom noticed carvings on the walls, drawings of stars, ships, and family figures. "Did you make these?" Tom asked gently. Lyra nodded, brushing her fingers across one of the drawings. "Many nights alone. Draw to remember." Tom felt a lump in his throat. "You're stronger than anyone I've ever met," he said quietly. The translator repeated his words, and Lyra froze, eyes wide. No one had said that to her before. Slowly, a tiny, almost shy smile appeared on her face. When it was safe, they left the cave and gathered the last pieces they needed. Carrying the supplies back was hard, but together they managed. As they traveled under the pale moonlight of the alien sky, Tom noticed Lyra walking a little closer than before, as if trusting him more with every step. By the time they returned to their own cave, exhaustion weighed heavy on both of them. Tom set down the salvaged parts with relief. "This," he said with a grin, "might actually work." Lyra sat nearby, watching him with quiet curiosity. Finally, she said softly through the translator, "You, different from others." Tom looked at her. "Different?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Others came long ago, saw me, walked away. You stayed." Tom felt something warm in his chest. He didn't fully understand why yet, but he knew one thing. He couldn't imagine leaving her alone again. As they sat near the small fire, the glowing crystal warming the cave, Tom glanced at the parts they had gathered. Tomorrow he could try repairing the beacon fully. But as he looked at Lyra, he realized their mission was becoming something bigger than just escape. He wasn't just trying to leave this planet anymore. He was trying to make sure Lyra was never unseen or alone again. Morning sunlight spilled into the cave as Tom laid out all the scavenged parts from the old wreck. The faint smell of moss and warm crystal filled the air. Lyra sat nearby, her teal fingers carefully cleaning wires with a piece of cloth. Tom rubbed his tired eyes and checked the small beacon device. Its metal casing was scratched, but now with the new power cells it had a chance to work. "We can boost the signal," Tom said, speaking slowly so the translator would help Lyra understand. "Maybe someone out there will hear us." Lyra looked, uncertain but hopeful. "If someone comes, they help?" Tom hesitated. "I hope so. If they're friendly, yes. We can leave this place. You don't have to hide anymore." Lyra lowered her gaze. "Hide. Long time. No one stay." Tom gave a gentle smile. "I'm staying." The words made her freeze for a moment before nodding silently and returning to her work. They spent hours assembling the beacon. Tom connected wires, while Lyra held parts steady, her slender hands surprisingly skilled. Sometimes their fingers brushed, and though neither spoke about it, there was a quiet warmth in those moments. By midday, the device was ready. Tom flipped a switch, and the beacon hummed with soft blue light. "Signal's stronger now," Tom said. "Might take time, but someone should pick it up." Lyra tilted her head, listening to the faint pulse of the machine. "Like heart," she said softly. Tom chuckled. "Yeah, like a heartbeat calling out to the stars." Later, they sat outside the cave, sharing food from the survival pack. A gentle breeze carried the scent of glowing flowers nearby. For a moment, the forest felt almost peaceful. Tom leaned back against a rock, watching silver leaves sway above. "Back home," he said, "humans believe every person matters, even if others can't see it." Lyra looked at him curiously. "Even someone like me?" Tom met her eyes firmly. "Especially someone like you." The translator repeated his words, and Lyra's expression softened. She turned away slightly, hiding what looked like the hint of a smile. Their quiet moment ended suddenly when a loud screech echoed from the sky. Tom's body tensed. "Hunters," Lyra whispered, standing quickly. Tom grabbed his pack and the beacon. "Inside," he said, pointing toward the cave. Before they could move, a shadow swept across the ground. One of the massive winged hunters swooped low, its red eyes gleaming, its talons slashed at the moss where they had just been sitting. Tom pulled Lyra toward the cave, but another screech came from behind. A second hunter emerged from the trees, blocking their path. They were trapped. The first hunter landed nearby, its wings folding as it stalked closer. The creature's metallic scales reflected sunlight, making it look like living armor. Lyra's hands trembled, memories of past attacks flashing in her eyes. Tom stepped in front of her, heart pounding. He had no weapon, only courage and a desperate will to protect her. The hunter let out a low growl, its red eyes fixed on them. Tom slowly reached into his pack and pulled out the glowing crystal they had found in the wreckage. The crystal pulsed with warm light. The hunter paused, tilting its head. Tom held it higher, hoping the glow might scare or distract it. "Back," Tom said firmly, taking slow steps forward. To his surprise, the hunter hesitated, wings twitching uneasily. The second hunter circled overhead but did not attack. Lyra gasped softly. "Crystal. Old power. My people use protect." Realizing it might be their only chance, Tom moved carefully, holding the crystal between them and the creature. The hunter let out a frustrated screech, then slowly backed away. The second one gave a sharp cry and soared into the sky, vanishing beyond the trees. Tom exhaled deeply, lowering the crystal. His hands were shaking. That was close. Lyra stepped closer, looking at him with wide, grateful eyes. "You protect me," she whispered. Tom gave a tired smile. "We protect each other." Back inside the cave, they caught their breath. The encounter had left them both shaken, but it also proved something important. They weren't helpless anymore. Tom placed the glowing crystal near the entrance. "This should keep them away for a while," he said. Lyra touched the crystal gently. "From my home. My family used this when I was small. I thought all gone." Tom looked at her softly. "Maybe it stayed behind for you. Maybe to help you survive until now." Lyra's eyes glimmered in the faint light. She didn't speak, but the thought seemed to comfort her. That evening, Tom adjusted the beacon and checked its signal strength. It was steady and strong now. With luck, a ship would hear it soon. As night fell, they sat near the small fire, eating in silence. After a while, Tom noticed Lyra staring at the stars outside the cave. "Do you miss the sky?" Tom asked gently. Lyra nodded slowly. "Dreamed to fly, to see other worlds, but my people left me behind. No bond. Too weak." Tom frowned. "Bond. Families join. Strong choose strong." "No one choose me," she said quietly, her voice cracking. Tom's chest tightened. He didn't know much about her culture yet, but he could hear the pain in her words. He reached out slowly, placing a comforting hand over hers. "Where I'm from, strength isn't about wings or fighting. It's about surviving, about kindness. And you You're stronger than anyone I know." Lyra looked at him, surprised. The translator's soft voice echoed his words, and for a long moment, they just sat there, hands touching. Later that night, as the forest slept outside, Tom couldn't shake a thought from his mind. He hadn't just repaired a beacon for rescue. Without realizing it, he had started something else, a promise to help someone who had been invisible for too long. Even if no ship came for days, even if hunters circled above, Tom knew he wasn't leaving Lyra's side. Because somewhere deep, in the alien night surrounded by danger and stars, two lost souls had finally found each other. Morning sunlight filtered through the crystal trees as Tom adjusted the beacon one last time. The signal had been active for 2 days now, and though no ships had appeared, hope hadn't left his mind. Lyra sat near the cave entrance, her teal skin glowing faintly in the soft light. She was carving small patterns into a broken piece of metal, shaping it like a pendant. Tom had noticed she often made little things when nervous. "Any signal?" she asked quietly. Tom checked the device and smiled. "Strong as ever. If someone's out there, they'll find us soon." Lyra nodded, but her eyes stayed on the pendant. "If they come? They take you home?" Tom glanced at her. "Maybe, but if they're friendly, they'll take both of us." Lyra hesitated. "My people, they left me. I am not chosen. If they see me again—" She didn't finish the thought. Tom walked over and knelt beside her. "If anyone tries to say you're not worth saving, they'll have to answer to me first." For the first time that morning, a small smile touched her lips. By midday, the distant hum of engines broke the quiet forest. Tom stood quickly, scanning the sky. A sleek silver ship descended through the clouds, glowing thrusters stirring leaves into swirls. "They came," Tom said, relief mixing with caution. Lyra froze. "Not human ship," she whispered. The vessel landed softly near the clearing. Its hatch opened, and 3 aliens stepped out, tall, elegant, with shimmering wings folded neatly behind them. They looked similar to Lyra, but healthier, stronger, their crystal armor polished and shining. One of them, a female with a silver crest, spotted Lyra and frowned deeply. "It cannot be," she said in their melodic language. Lyra lowered her head, trembling. "Sister," she whispered. Tom's eyes widened. "That's your family?" Before Lyra could answer, the female strode forward, stopping a few paces away. Her glowing eyes were sharp, filled with disbelief. "You survived?" Lyra barely nodded. Another alien, taller and stern-looking, stepped forward. "You should not have," he said coldly. "You were left because you were weak, not chosen to bond." Tom stepped in front of Lyra, his voice firm. "She survived because she's strong, stronger than any of you who abandoned her." The aliens turned their gaze on Tom, surprised by the human's boldness. The silver-crested female tilted her head. "And who are you?" "Tom," he said, standing his ground. "The one who's been keeping her alive while you all flew away." The female's wings shifted uneasily. "Human, you do not understand our ways. Our people choose bonds for strength. Those who cannot fly cannot fight, cannot lead." Pow pointed at Lyra. "She fought to survive every day here. She faced hunters, storms, and loneliness, and she's still here. If that's not leadership and strength, I don't know what is." The taller alien scoffed. "Words mean little, only a bonded partner can truly recognize worth. None chose her before." Tom didn't hesitate. He turned to Lyra, his voice gentle but clear. "Then let me ask what no one else ever did." He took a small step closer, looking into her wide, glowing eyes. "Lyra, will you bond with me?" Time seemed to freeze. Lyra's breath caught, her hands trembling slightly. No one in her life had ever asked those words. Not once. She had always been told she was unworthy, invisible, but here was this human, who had no wings, no crystal armor, yet saw her as more than enough. Tears glimmered faintly in her eyes. Slowly, she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. Tom smiled softly, then looked at the aliens. "There. Someone chose her, and I'm not leaving her behind." The silver-crested female's expression softened slightly, but the taller male still looked unconvinced. "A bond with an alien outsider," he said sharply. "It is meaningless to our people." Tom shook his head. "Meaningless? Look around. She survived because she learned to fight, to fix, to endure, because she's got a stronger heart than anyone I've met. You can't see it because you only look for perfection. I see her. That's what matters." Lyra slowly stepped from behind Tom, standing taller than before. "I learned alone," she said softly, her voice trembling but strong. "I learned to survive when you all left me. Tom stayed. He saw me. If you cannot accept him, you cannot accept me." Her sister's wings shifted again. Finally, the female spoke with a quiet sigh. "Perhaps we were wrong." The tension eased slightly. The female turned to Tom. "You have shown loyalty rare even among our own kind. If you wish to bring her to safety, our ship can take you both." Tom glanced at Lyra. "Your choice," he said gently. Lyra looked between her sister, the tall male, and Tom. For years, she had dreamed of returning to her people, but now she realized something. It wasn't home if she had to be unseen. With Tom, for the first time, she felt truly chosen. "I go with Tom," she said firmly. "If we leave this world, we leave together." The aliens exchanged glances but did not argue. The tall male muttered something about broken traditions, but the female silenced him with a sharp look. They boarded the silver ship. Inside, its halls shimmered with crystal light. As they took off, Lyra sat beside Tom, still clutching the pendant she had carved earlier. Tom leaned closer, speaking softly. "You okay?" She nodded, voice low. "For first time, I am not invisible." Tom smiled and gently held her hand. "And you never will be again." As the ship soared into the stars, leaving the lonely forest world behind, Lyra knew her life had changed forever, not because her people had returned, but because one human had looked past everything and truly seen her. The silver ship glided through the vastness of space, its glowing wings shimmering like moonlight. Inside, the halls were silent except for the soft hum of engines. Lyra walked slowly beside Tom, her teal fingers brushing the smooth crystal walls. She hadn't been aboard one of her people's ships since the day they had left her behind. Tom stayed close, watching her carefully. She looked both awed and tense, as though every corner of the ship held a memory. "You doing okay?" he asked softly. Lyra nodded but kept her voice low. "Feels strange. Like dream. I was not supposed to return." Tom gave a reassuring smile. "Well, dreams change, and you're not alone this time." At the end of the corridor, Lyra's sister waited. The silver-crested alien stood tall, wings slightly spread. "The council has heard of this unusual bond," she said, her voice even. "But they are divided. Many believe a human cannot be a true bonded partner." Tom glanced at Lyra. "What does that mean?" Lyra looked down, speaking softly. "For my people, to prove a bond is real, both must face a trial together. It shows trust and courage. Without it, they will not accept us." Tom straightened. "What kind of trial?" Her sister's glowing eyes narrowed. "A flight through the shattered belt," she said. "An asteroid field with unpredictable storms. Only true partners can navigate it without losing each other. If you fail, both of you return to exile." Tom didn't hesitate. We'll do it. Lyra's eyes widened. It is dangerous, she whispered. Tom turned to her, his voice steady. We've survived hunters, storms, and a whole planet trying to kill us. We can handle rocks. For a moment, silence hung in the corridor. Then Lyra's sister gave a slight nod. Very well. The trial begins at the next star. Hours later, the ship arrived at the edge of the shattered belt. Outside the viewport, enormous asteroids floated like jagged mountains, glowing faintly with cosmic energy. Lightning-like bursts flashed between rocks, illuminating the darkness. Tom and Lyra stood together in the flight chamber. They were fitted with small wing packs, devices that let them glide through zero gravity like her people. For Lyra, it felt natural. For Tom, it was new, but strangely exciting. Her sister approached one last time. This trial is not only skill, she said, looking at both of them. It demands trust. Many have failed because they could not feel their partner's heart. Tom met her gaze firmly. I trust her with my life. Lyra's cheeks glowed softly as she glanced at him, a quiet warmth in her eyes. The chamber door opened, revealing the endless asteroid field beyond. A countdown echoed, and then the two of them leapt into space. At once, they were surrounded by floating stone giants, some spinning fast, others drifting slowly. Lightning storms arced between rocks, creating dazzling but deadly flashes. Tom activated his wing pack, wobbling at first. Lyra steadied him with a gentle hand. Follow me, she said softly. They weaved through the first cluster of asteroids. Lyra's movements graceful, almost like a dance. Tom followed closely, trusting her guidance. Suddenly, a burst of cosmic wind pushed them apart. Tom tumbled through space, struggling to regain control. Lyra's voice came through the comm, urgent, but calm. Tom, close your wings, let it pass. He did as she said, folding the wings. The wind pushed him further, but then calmed. Opening the wings again, he spotted Lyra flying toward him. She reached out her hand. Without thinking, Tom grabbed it. Their hands locked, and together they steadied themselves. You okay? She asked. Tom grinned despite the danger. Still breathing? They pressed on, facing more hazards. Shards of glowing crystal zipped past like knives. A massive asteroid cracked apart in front of them, sending fragments flying. At one point, a sudden storm separated them again. But instead of panicking, Tom remembered her earlier words and followed her signals. Piece by piece, they learned to move as one. When Lyra shifted left, Tom mirrored it. When Tom braced for a wind burst, Lyra adjusted her path. Soon they weren't just surviving the trial, they were gliding together in perfect rhythm. From a nearby observation platform on the silver ship, Lyra's sister watched in quiet astonishment. Many bonded pairs of their own kind had failed. This course, yet this human and the unworthy princess, moved as though their hearts were linked. Near the end of the course, the most dangerous challenge awaited, a swirling vortex of debris blocking the exit. The only way through was a narrow gap that shifted every few seconds. Lyra's voice was calm but tense. We go together, she said. No hesitation. Tom nodded, gripping her hand tighter. On your mark. They waited for the opening, then launched forward. Rocks spun dangerously close, lightning snapped past their faces, but neither let go of the other's hand. With a final burst of speed, they cleared the vortex and emerged into open space, stars stretching endlessly before them. Tom let out a long breath. Did we do it? Lyra turned toward him, her glowing eyes shimmering with joy. We did, she whispered. Back aboard the silver ship, the council awaited them. The tall male alien from before scowled but said nothing. Lyra's sister stepped forward, wings unfolding fully in a sign of respect. Few succeed in the shattered. Belt, she said, her voice carrying through the hall. "But you two moved as one. Your bond is proven." She turned to Lyra, her tone softening. "Sister, we were wrong to leave you behind. We saw weakness where there was strength." Tears glimmered in Lyra's eyes. "I only survived because someone chose to see me," she said, glancing at Tom. The council bowed their heads slightly, a rare gesture of honor. Even the tall male lowered his wings in silent acknowledgement. Tom stepped closer to Lyra and whispered, "Told you we'd handle rocks." Lyra gave a soft laugh, a sound like gentle wind, and for the first time in her life she felt truly accepted, not just by her people, but by someone who had proven their bond in the heart of danger. The silver ship glided through the vastness of space, its glowing wings shimmering like moonlight. Inside, the halls were silent except for the soft hum of engines. Lyra walked slowly beside Tom, her teal fingers brushing the smooth crystal walls. She hadn't been aboard one of her people's ships since the day they had left her behind. Tom stayed close, watching her carefully. She looked both awed and tense, as though every corner of the ship held a memory. "You doing okay?" he asked softly. Lyra nodded but kept her voice low. "Feels strange. Like dream. I was not supposed to return." Tom gave a reassuring smile. "Well, dreams change, and you're not alone this time." At the end of the corridor, Lyra's sister waited. The silver-crested alien stood tall, wings slightly spread. "The council has heard of this unusual bond," she said, her voice even. "But they are divided. Many believe a human cannot be a true bonded partner." Tom glanced at Lyra. "What does that mean?" Lyra looked down, speaking softly. "For my people, to prove a bond is real, both must face a trial together. It shows trust and courage. Without it, they will not accept us." Tom straightened. "What kind of trial?" Her sister's glowing eyes narrowed. "A flight through the shattered belt," she said. "An asteroid field with unpredictable storms. Only true partners can navigate it without losing each other. If you fail, both of you return to exile." Tom didn't hesitate. "We'll do it." Lyra's eyes widened. "It is dangerous," she whispered. Tom turned to her, his voice steady. "We've survived hunters, storms, and a whole planet trying to kill us. We can handle rocks." For a moment, silence hung in the corridor. Then Lyra's sister gave a slight nod. "Very well. The trial begins at the next star." Hours later, the ship arrived at the edge of the shattered belt. Outside the viewport, enormous asteroids floated like jagged mountains, glowing faintly with cosmic energy. Lightning-like bursts flashed between rocks, illuminating the darkness. Tom and Lyra stood together in the flight chamber. They were fitted with small wing packs, devices that let them glide through zero gravity like her people. For Lyra, it felt natural. For Tom, it was new, but strangely exciting. Her sister approached one last time. "This trial is not only skill," she said, looking at both of them. "It demands trust. Many have failed because they could not feel their partner's heart." Tom met her gaze firmly. "I trust her with my life." Lyra's cheeks glowed softly as she glanced at him, a quiet warmth in her eyes. The chamber door opened, revealing the endless asteroid field beyond. A countdown echoed, and then the two of them leapt into space. At once, they were surrounded by floating stone giants, some spinning fast, others drifting slowly. Lightning storms arced between rocks, creating dazzling but deadly flashes. Tom activated his wing pack, wobbling at first. Lyra steadied him with a gentle hand. "Follow me," she said softly. They weaved through the first cluster of asteroids, Lyra's movements graceful, almost like a dance. Tom followed closely, trusting her guidance. Suddenly, a burst of cosmic wind pushed them apart. Tom tumbled through space, struggling to regain control. Lyra's voice came through the comm, urgent, but calm. "Tom, close your wings, let it pass." He did as she said, folding the wings. The wind pushed him further, but then calmed. Opening the wings again, he spotted Lyra flying toward him. She reached out her hand. Without thinking, Tom grabbed it. Their hands locked, and together they steadied themselves. "You okay?" she asked. Tom grinned, despite the danger. "Still breathing?" They pressed on, facing more hazards. Shards of glowing crystal zipped past like knives. A massive asteroid cracked apart in front of them, sending fragments flying. At one point, a sudden storm separated them again. But instead of panicking, Tom remembered her earlier words and followed her signals. Piece by piece, they learned to move as one. When Lyra shifted left, Tom mirrored it. When Tom braced for a wind burst, Lyra adjusted her path. Soon they weren't just surviving the trial, they were gliding together in perfect rhythm. From a nearby observation platform on the silver ship, Lyra's sister watched in quiet astonishment. Many bonded pairs of their own kind had failed. This course, yet this human and the unworthy princess, moved as though their hearts were linked. Near the end of the course, the most dangerous challenge awaited, a swirling vortex of debris blocking the exit. The only way through was a narrow gap that shifted every few seconds. Lyra's voice was calm but tense. "We go together," she said. "No hesitation." Tom nodded, gripping her hand tighter. "On your mark." They waited for the opening, then launched forward. Rocks spun dangerously close, lightning snapped past their faces, but neither let go of the other's hand. With a final burst of speed, they cleared the vortex and emerged into open space, stars stretching endlessly before them. Tom let out a long breath. "Did we do it?" Lyra turned toward him, her glowing eyes shimmering with joy. "We did," she whispered. Back aboard the silver ship, the council awaited them. The tall male alien from before scowled but said nothing. Lyra's sister stepped forward, wings unfolding fully in a sign of respect. "Few succeed in the shattered." "Belt," she said, her voice carrying through the hall. "But you two moved as one. Your bond is proven." She turned to Lyra, her tone softening. "Sister, we were wrong to leave you behind. We saw weakness where there was strength." Tears glimmered in Lyra's eyes. "I only survived because someone chose to see me," she said, glancing at Tom. The council bowed their heads slightly, a rare gesture of honor. Even the tall male lowered his wings in silent acknowledgement. Tom stepped closer to Lyra and whispered, "Told you we'd handle rocks." Lyra gave a soft laugh, a sound like gentle wind, and for the first time in her life she felt truly accepted, not just by her people, but by someone who had proven their bond in the heart of danger.